Ciao, buongiorno. Welcome back to iMovie Podcast. And today is the moment of
the 11th episode. This week we are going to talk about the shortest film on the whole Letterboxds top 250, which of course doesn't feature short films, so it's not that short.
It's actually 43 minutes.
Yeah, 43 minutes.
45
minutes. I was going to say that, but
sorry.
it's actually 45 minutes long, and it is Buster Keaton's Sherlock Jr. Actually, let's see. I don't know if this is the oldest film on the list, but it might
could be. For sure, we can say that it's following is at the 82nd position, and it's following what I think is the longest on the list, which is Stunt Tango. It is the oldest.
It's succeeded by Napoleon by Avellans.
Which is actually Napoleon 3 years later, so...
Joan of Arc and Metropolis also there.
But there are a few, and then some Charlie Chaplin's.
But yeah, no, so it is the oldest film on the Letterboxd Top 250, which we didn't know actually when we watched it, but it's exciting, I guess. Was it your first time watching a Buster Keaton film?
I think so, or maybe, you've seen some clips. Because also recently we went on social media, to be honest. Sometimes you have some scenes and how Buster Keaton was incredible with the scene with the house falling down.
Yeah, that scene often comes up.
Yeah. But we learned a few anecdotes about this film too, and some interesting, some things you really see of how great he is as a stuntman, but also some, fun fact behind the scenes, like the water falling down.
And the fact that he broke his neck when filming.
He broke his neck. It was an accident because... okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so...
Was it your first Buster Keaton film?
I have already seen some of his films, which I couldn't tell you which ones, to be honest, because they've kind of blurred into my memory. I've definitely seen The General.
You've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen The General.
And The General is supposed to be extremely good. It's the favorite
one
of...
I think I've seen Steamboat Bill. Yeah, I don't know. I might even have seen Sherlock Jr. before, to be honest. Because I think the films aren't really separated necessarily. I mean, they don't have extremely distinctive narrative stories or narrative arcs. It's more about the action that takes place.
It's true.
And
even the special effects.
Yeah,
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, all the stunts, let's say.
Yeah.
I think that's what drew people, and still draws people to the films, is the fact that they really managed to do all these
crazy
things.
Stuff.
In this film, I think there's one scene where he hangs onto a kind of barrier that lowers and goes up on the road, and he jumps onto it from the top of a building and kind of drags it down. And of course, that wasn't done with green screen or with special effects. They actually had to shoot it, and they shoot it from wide angle, so you can see kind of the scale of how high up he is. And we were saying yesterday, how, firstly, in terms of insurance, because Buster Keaton was, I guess, one of the biggest stars. He was one of the biggest stars in the 1920s. How did insurance work? Because nowadays you hear about Tom Cruise and Daniel Craig and some actors who do some of their own stunts, and that's become a big issue with insurance because, of course, you have to have a lot of safety measures, which apparently weren't taken with Buster Keaton, considering that he broke his neck during filming this.
Yeah, I mean, that was an accident because he broke his neck in a scene where he was supposed to come down from a...
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Here. Okay, and he was there, but he gets hanged there. So, he's walking on the train, but then it's not the fact that he's walking on the train, the fact that it's in here. Too strong, he fell down, the neck.
The scene where Buster Keaton breaks his neck is a scene where he's kind of walking on top of a carriage train, and then he grabs hold of a water spout.
Exactly. And then the water falls down, but much stronger than they wanted it to.
Literally fires him onto the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Super strong stream. And so he falls down on the railways, and his neck hits one of them, and basically his neck gets broken. But he finds out only 9 years later.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So basically he
had like headaches for the rest of the shooting. So.
Yeah, and he stopped for that day. He's like, no, I thought, I don't know, you're breaking your fucking neck. Please stop for, I don't know, 1 week at least. Oh no, it was very painful, extremely, but since his threshold is quite high, it was like, no, okay, today we don't shoot, but tomorrow, yes. I have sometimes some blackout moments, but it's okay.
And there's a few moments where there's some stunts he does where like he goes flying through walls. He's like riding bikes between cars in front of trains and stuff, which obviously they had to time perfectly. And also it makes you wonder like how many takes were done for each scene, because presumably not that many.
But some he said like I've read usually like takes no, I don't remember, but it was like a couple of weeks. And it took them like 2 months for a couple of shots or scenes, because it was extremely complicated. But even if you think about it, if we don't necessarily focus on the dangerous parts that are basically the whole film, even when they are at the theater, because he's we didn't say anything, but he's divided into his passion and his work. His passion is to become a Sherlock, so a detective. And his job is to be a cinema operator. So when he's a cinema operator and he's projecting this film, and we see the theater and the projection, and in some moments he enters the projection. I mean, he enters the film, and that's crazy because, again, we are in 1924. It's absurd. It's such a beautifully made scene, and mix.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, it looks really. I mean, especially when you have the context of not having any post-production basically possible, so any effects possible, so it has to all be done as kind of a visual trick.
Yeah.
The scene when he enters the screen of the cinema is very impressive. Also, there's just prior to that, there's a scene where he doubles up, like he's dreaming, and you see like one of him leave the other. So they kind of superimpose two reels of film onto each other.
It's jaw dropper. Yes, absolutely. And I don't know if it's like so easy, but I can understand that already today it's still a very cool technique, and we can be amazed. But I can't imagine at the time, really, like 1924. It's crazy how it's going.
One thing that people were saying, some reviews were saying, is that it would be hard for a film made today to shock the audience as much, or to have as much wow factor as this film does, because there wouldn't be. I think it would be hard to find a technique that's as revolutionary or as daring now as Sherlock Jr. And even, for example, in the examples, as we mentioned before, of some film stars who do their own stunts, like when Tom Cruise goes on the side of a plane or something. Now you always have the doubt, because CGI and whatever exists. You never have, going to the cinema, you're never thrown into knowing that what you're seeing is real. Whereas going to cinema in 1920s, you don't have that form of special effect or trickery. I mean, you do have some form of trickery, as is seen in the film, but it's only...
Yeah, without exaggerating.
I mean, it's only with practical ways.
Techniques,
I mean, with almost like magic tricks, let's say. Yeah. But you don't have any form of post-production, so you know that what you're seeing is real, and that's when stunts of this level, that's something very cool for the audience, I think.
Yes, true. No, absolutely, I agree. And also, again, and it wasn't even something that they were so used to in general, because cinema was quite at the beginning in any case. And he was very unique, one of a kind, somehow.
Well, I think Chaplin was similar-esque.
But he was a bit later, no?
Yeah, and more... Again, it's very visual slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
But it's a slightly different register, because it's more...
Even socially...
I don't know, not even that, but socially pointed, rather than just being for Keaton's films are almost like the 1920s YouTube video in a sense, where it's like pure entertainment condensed.
Yes.
I mean, there is a story in Sherlock Jr., but it is like the story is just an excuse
Exactly,
for all
to show off.
to show off all these techniques.
Exactly. That, by the way, also I don't know. I think he was also unique in his physicality, because even when he was a child, like there were some stories that say that he was extremely agile and hard to break. Let's say, because there is this legend that he fell down from, I don't know, 6 floors or something like that, and when he was extremely young, like a few months old, and he was like no injuries, no nothing. He was perfect. And also his dad was also, and his mom, they were part of a company of kind of circus athletics.
Interesting.
So yeah,
and you can definitely see the circus mentality,
yes.
let's say, or the not mentality, but the circus showmanship.
Yes.
In this film, it is like a trip to the circus in some sense.
Yes, exactly. And not only also because it means he learned to fall before he could walk, let's say, in a certain way. So he also was saying, like in a few interviews, yes, if you don't know how to put your hands when you fall down or everything, or that you have to land with your hand or with your foot first, then you would die. And he said, I've never died in this way. So that was interesting, because they were like they tried to arrest his parents for child abuse, which is understandable on some levels. But yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about was how influential that brand of slapstick physical comedy is, in the sense that so many people, from Peter Sellers to Rowan Atkinson, the actor of Mr. Bean, have taken on, or even Chaplin himself, I guess, have continued that mantle of physical comedy in which dialogue is used very sparsely and as little as possible, and as many things as possible are communicated just by gestures or facial expressions. And you can see, because they do have some dialogue cards in the film of yesterday for important plot points.
So they're not many.
But a lot of them are a lot of emotions and even communication is transmitted silently through facial expressions or through gestures.
Yes.
But you always understand what the characters are saying without speaking.
Yes, or even through the editing, like in the final scene when he's he's again a cinema operator, and his love comes there, and he's trying to seduce her again, and he's reproducing what is happening on screen, because again he's a cinema operator, and in the moment you don't see, there is nothing said, but you can see that he's exactly doing that, so reproducing what is on screen. So Clem was saying yesterday, it's the influence of cinema already, like how a model, how it could be considered as a model, and it's very interesting. I thought, and yes, it's true. It was already like very big and very influential, and this is the proof. And I guess also to see it on screen that it's so influential, it influences you even more. So that was very interesting, and with beautiful orchestra, and that was also very nice and very theatrical, still performative.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, it's a real pointer to the place of cinema already in the 1920s, and how already there's an idealization or idolization of cinema stars or actors on screen, which is an interesting thing to note, considering it comes at such an early point in the line of cinematic history.
Yeah. Also because I guess, I don't know how often it was the case, but for sure for this projected film that they had, it clearly has a happy ending, where if it's a romantic film, then the couple is happy and they end up together, and I think that's also very much like a role model that they were using. For sure was Buster Keaton. Something else that I wanted to say is also I liked how, because the beginning it opens basically with him seducing this girl, but then it happens that in the house the watch of the brother of this lady got stolen, and so they wanted to solve the crime scene, blah, 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 solve the case, and it ended up that it was I think the brother. To be honest, I don't know. It could also be the dad. In any case, a male. See, you can see it somewhere here. So a male figure close to this lady who clearly has a strong power on her and a strong influence on the marriage, potential marriage, has his watch gone missing. So they're trying to, and actually Sherlock says, "Oh, since I'm starting to become a detective, I'm going to find out who stole it." Perfect. The fact is that then he got set up, and so he ends up being perceived as the stealer, thief, and it's not good. So we see all his action that is happening, blah blah blah, and he surrenders immediately, even if he knows that he didn't commit this crime. But the lady, smart, she is the only one who could think about the most reasonable thing to do, which is, okay, we found that there is this ticket that proves that a watch has been sold for £4. $4 is true because we are in the US. So, okay, perfect. Let's go to the place with the name on the ticket, even where this watch has been sold. So she went and she found out who did it. The real traitor.
She was the real detective.
And she was the real detective, so she was the only smart of the group, the only girl there. And I thought, okay, that's, to be honest, a quite interesting transposition of this story. I liked it. I liked that she was somehow powerful, even if really not able to speak. But she managed to find the truth.
Film, so.
See, but she wouldn't even speak. She was like, oh. He wanted to kiss her, and she was like, oh. He was turning her back like, oh no, it's too much. But she clearly wanted him. So yeah, that was something else that I wanted to point out that I appreciated. Who, by the way, she was supposed to be the chosen actress by Buster Keaton.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, I think, with a film from more than 100 years ago, and see how, because we just watched a silent film recently called Orochi, which is a Japanese silent film from a similar period. I think when you do go back to those silent films, I think I'm always more surprised by some similarities that exist, or some common themes, some common expressions, some tropes, because you can subconsciously, I guess, you perceive it to be a very separate art form and very like in the distant past, inconceivably long ago, that probably we haven't even met.
No.
Many people who were around in those days, or at least adults in those days, and yet often I'm surprised by how much some things can be transposed into present day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So much. And also how entertaining they can be, because, okay, this is one case, the one of Sherlock Jr. Also another thing that we watched, because the Orochi that we watched also was particular because there was the voice of the Banshee in the meantime.
But that was re-recorded.
Yeah, exactly, but it was, in any case, a different experience for us as the audience. While we watched another film called Streets Without End by Naruse, and that too was actually very entertaining, with quite dynamic, I have to say, and that was a completely silent film, even if it's a completely different context and narrative structure and story.
I mean, it's much more of a traditional filmic structure than...
Yes, exactly. Buster Keaton is more like a theatrical performance.
Yeah, like the circus. I like the circus comparison. I think that's quite an appropriate comparison.
Yeah, exactly. More performative in that sense. Yeah. While Street Without End, it's a really popular film. It's like a story with a social criticism and everything. Or at least a representation of a specific reality. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I think often there's some pre-war films, it's almost like a different category of cinema in a sense, of silent films, because sound is such an important part of film now in terms of both music, dialogue, soundscapes, special effects, and once all of that stuff is stripped away, you're left with a much more one-dimensional piece of art in which the lack of sound has to be compensated for those things. So, for example, in Keaton's case, there's a lot more going on visually than you would ever get in a sound film. It's almost as though...
You think?
Yeah,
I think
there's
in
always
different way.
stuff going on. Characters move around quickly.
See, that's
The
true.
dialogue scenes last a very short amount of time, and there's always action on the screen.
Yeah,
the action
yeah.
it makes up the most of the film.
Yeah, there could also be just his face or something. Ah, by the way, this reminded me that I read that in Italian the title is completely different. It's called The Ball Number 13, as in the ball of the pool.
Ah, yeah, because they have the wall.
They have that.
Yeah. It's true. They have they do some pool trick shots as well, where they kind of flip the ball up and around. So yeah, I guess in conclusion, what do you think about this film's place in the top 250?
At the beginning, I thought I wouldn't have put it in the top 250, or at least not so high, because 80 seconds is quite high. This said, again, it's 1924, so it's brilliant in the way it's made, and even, to be honest, the quality of the picture is great. But not only that, also some editing, some special effects is crazy, and all the stunt work is great. The plot is the simplest thing on earth. But it's okay, that's not the point. So I guess it deserves to be in the top 250. Somehow among the untouchable films in history. Personally, probably not maybe at the bottom of my 250. Or, I don't know, around the 200 could be okay. What about you?
I think it's one of those things where you kind of see the problem with ranking across different periods. Because I'm thinking of like the films that would make up like most people's top films. It's like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like, I don't know, 2001: A Space Odyssey, or Seven Samurai, or Stalker, or There Will Be Blood, or all these different films, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So different films at different points throughout history, and I'm thinking all of those films are much more complex than Sherlock Jr. in terms of narrative, acting, plotting, editing, all that stuff. But are any of them as impressive feats in their own way? I mean, it's like an impressive feat in a different way. Sherlock Jr. has an extremely impressive feat.
Yes, exactly.
Of filmmaking and of both in terms of historical context, of editing, of stunt making. It's an original idea that's probably never been made before, literally in the history of cinema, which can't be said for any of those other films. So in that sense, maybe it's a better film than all of them. Maybe it's more original for the time it came out. Maybe it's without it, none of those other films would come out. Then, does it have the effect on you the other films do, or many of the other films top 250, or even that aren't in the top 250? Maybe not. But that's the point where it's hard to... I think it's hard to compare, and that's why it's hard. If you made like a history of cinema,
that should be
included.
Yes,
sure.
I agree, yes. But exactly. On your personal list, would it be there? Personal taste?
Depends what the list was. If it was my favourite films, no.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's something, the most important films or something, then maybe it would.
Okay. Because also what I think when you discuss about, they should not be there in terms of historical differences in periods. I don't know, it's not really the fault of, Céline Sciamma or Coppola or whoever to be born and to make films much after.
No.
The original ideas came out. It's easier somehow. It's not easy, but it's, if you want, in a certain way, easier to come out with original ideas in the early 20s or mid-20s, where nothing was there before you somehow. Or it's not true nothing, but not as much in the cinema art. In fact, again, he's taken a lot from circus or theatrical performance and everything. And so now what we have to cope with is huge quantity of quality films with original ideas. So to come out now with an original idea is much more difficult, I think. Or at least two different types of difficulties.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, equally you have many. It's such a balanced thing because equally, like, now people have access to all these editing tools. Yes. I have access, and I'm not a professional filmmaker. We have access to editing tools. Buster Keaton
even to information,
like
even in terms of education. Okay, you can, experiment, find some information on how can I make this shot in the way I would like it to be. You have many more tools in this sense now. So, yeah. I don't know if it's a complex topic, I guess. In any case, yes, we liked the film. Yes. We got entertained. Yes. Did you finish early? Yes. It didn't last long as we...
No, yeah, it was absolutely recommend watching because Jenny has to be seen to be believed. And I think that's also, like, sorry to go back to this debate, I think it's also, it goes back to, like, the best against greatest debate, which people often use in sports, like, someone being the best at a sport doesn't make them necessarily the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
And in that sense, it's like maybe there have been many better films than Sherlock Jr. made, but it still retains a place as important and, I guess, great, or one of the greatest films because of its place in history. It's like, okay, Voyage to the Moon by Georges Méliès. It's like Georges Méliès' Voyage to the Moon, which is one of the first films ever made in the late 1800s, which is a rocket landing into a moon, which is 3 minutes long. Is that better than, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey? No, of course it's not better than 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it still retains a very important place because of the time it came out, because at that point you had nothing to base on. It's completely original and new art form being created, which... Yeah, that's why it's hard to compare across different periods.
Yes, I agree.
And that's why some directors who made the switch from silent to sound somehow, or at least from early cinema to Hollywood cinema, like Anthony of Hitchcock, for example, that's also something very impressive.
So I will maybe conclude by saying that in the meantime, we're watching Sherlock, Sherlock Holmes, the TV show with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. And we like a lot of Martin Freeman as an actor, and he's doing a great job. So it was interesting also to compare the two. And it's it's not, of course, the stories are different, but quite fun. So,
the editing of Sherlock Jr. has aged better than some of the editing in Sherlock.
By far. Somehow, even some themes.
Yeah.
But yeah. This said, I guess we can wrap up.
Yeah.
And tell you that don't forget to subscribe to the channel, please. Help us with subscribers because I don't know why we don't have many. And so you should do it. If you watch it, please subscribe too. You can like it or not as you wish. And see you most likely next Wednesday or into Wednesdays. I don't know.
Yeah, 2 Wednesdays.
Yeah, I don't know what film we will be.
Yeah,
it will be. See you most likely. Now the quality should be better.